Sam Marshall shares uplifting stories and conversations with people making Johannesburg and the world a better place.
That's exactly what we're doing. We have great conversations with people that are making the world a much better place. And I can't imagine anybody other than the next person. I've known her for a while now, and I follow the work that they do extensively. They are, in terms of just an organization that cares and the amount of work that they do, they are par excellence. Of course, I'm talking about, is it fair to call you doctor? Because I know you've been recognized from an honorary perspective. I'm happy to call you whatever you want me to call you.
So it was a professional perspective. I had to present 40 years of a portfolio of evidence to show the work I'd done over 4 decades. But I don't like being called doctor because in case they say, is there a doctor in the house? And then I've got to come and help somebody's had a heart attack or something. I'm just sommeliers.
That's the voice of Lesley Ann van Selm. She's the founder and managing director of Khulisa Social Solutions, a South African non-profit that has been transforming lives for donkey's years now. Under her leadership, Khulisa has pioneered innovative programs in crime prevention, youth development, community upliftment, working with some of the country's most vulnerable groups. She's widely recognized for her vision of using social innovation to break cycles of poverty, crime, and inequality. Lesley, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Sam, it's so great to be with you again. You're just one of my besties. You know that, though.
I love the work that you guys do. But for the odd person that has never heard of Khulisa, tell us a little bit about the organization.
So we're 28 years old. And
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And our first initiative was introducing the first ever therapeutic rehabilitation program in the history of South Africa at Leeuwkop Prison. And during that time, I met 28 of the most unbelievable young men who told me their stories. And when listening to the stories of young men who were incarcerated for some very serious crimes, I developed a philosophy in life, and that's pervaded Khulisa since we started, and that is, don't ask somebody what they did, but what happened to them. So that really is what Khulisa is all around about now, is not looking at the symptoms, but what's causing.
Don't ask them what they did, ask them what happened.
Correct. So we're looking at what's causing behavior that's manifesting in a way that is deleterious to society in general.
Yeah, but you have this way, Lesley, of getting people to drop their guard, right? I've been fortunate enough to see the work. In actual fact, I've trained some of the groups that you've worked with, and I went with your amazing team. We went to the Northwest and we trained a group at a center not far from Sun City. And your team is just amazing. They're absolutely passionate about the work that they do. But I always think that's a reflection of the leader. And you have this way of getting people to drop their guard. You've got a way for people to feel safe. And I know that this comes at great cost to you too, because at some point you filed for bankruptcy. Because, you do this with a passion.
File for bankruptcy. My husband, when I met my husband 27 years ago, he was a very wealthy man. He came out as a business consultant, and now he's grey, and he's even sacrificed his pension from the UK to keep Khulisa going some months. But it's been, like any NGO, money is always the issue, but fortunately we've managed to pull through, and I can say that it's been also, a lot of personal sacrifices, but I'm not starving, and I'm living better than most of the beneficiaries that I live with or I work with, because I'm fortunate that I do earn a salary, and Khulisa is now thriving and doing very, very well.
I'm so happy to hear that. And the other thing is, I must tell some. So, not only does Lesley, it just boggles the mind, because you're involved in so many different sectors. But I love what you said before we started the interview, that it actually all overlaps. Because and this is weird, it's not often you get to experience somebody in different spaces. So I've experienced Lesley when you worked with the Alex community around the river cleanups and the work that you do there, and I even went on one of the trips. I've experienced, Lesley, when you work with the restoration project within Alex and other communities. I I've met you when you work with communities with albinism and the work that you're doing there. I've met you focused on GBV. So I've actually seen many sides of you, even though it's the same person, but I've seen you advocate for so many different things.
So, Sam, the reality is that NGOs generally seem to focus on one particular social issue, and generally what they're focusing on is a symptom. So we've got NGOs dealing with substance abuse, family restoration, offender reintegration, etc. But unless we take the entire an entire ecosystem, so say for example we take Alex and we say within Alex, what are the different NGOs doing? Look at an asset map in Alex. Look at what assets are there, what's not there, and start mapping out who's doing what and where the gaps are. You'll never be able to create social cohesion. And the problem in our country is there is no social cohesion. People don't work together. Government departments don't collaborate.
But you do it very well. That you've actually brought in a lot of NGOs in the same room to talk about it. Sometimes, I mean, I've been in those meetings. They are competing NGOs, but they're sharing the same space and sharing best practice.
Correct, and that's really what we do is look at bringing people together and aligning their services, looking at what they're addressing, fine tuning their research, and helping them to gather data to find out how their interventions can be reinvented. But most importantly, looking behind all of the symptoms that we're throwing money at, and that's the whole country. We're throwing money at education, water, sanitation. And none of it's working, Sam. If you look at all the statistics, education's at its worst ever, GBV, crime, etc. So although there may be pockets of excellence, generally our country is failing. It's failing in every single dimension, and there's nothing that's working. And I'm sorry, but it's a reality. Nothing is working in South Africa despite the trillions and trillions and trillions being invested in so many different dimensions. And that's because we're not looking at cohesive interventions, and we're not talking to each other. Yeah. So the stats I can quote you about, 8 government departments doing GBV. There's so many policies that decree that they've got to look at aligning forces and looking at not duplicating efforts, but looking at how we can probe behind the symptoms and look at the systemic blockages that are actually creating the lack of impact. And unless we start looking at what's causing all of this in the first place, whatever we do, we're just going to continue year after year experiencing the same inequality.
It's like that pothole, right? That
Absolutely.
Pothole that gets filled up, and then a week later it seems that the hole is bigger.
Absolutely. We're all just driving over it every single day, not looking at how the whole road needs to be retarred and the foundations need to be recreated.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you mentioned that there are small pockets of excellence.
Of course.
Some stuff are working. But overarching though, I look at the work that you do at Khulisa and you and your team and how you go about trying to foster dialogue and communication, and not just for the sake of it, right? It's kind of tangible resources. I'm on a WhatsApp group that you guys have created as well, and people share excellence, they share kind of information and stuff. As somebody who's now kind of walked through this for 28 years, right, at great cost to yourself personally, but also just working with communities, and you're saying that we're not looking at the actual root cause of some of these problems. How do we get there? And I want to ask this with all sincerity. Has the horse bolted? Are we now not in the washing machine of just throwing money at stuff? And in order to go where you want us to go, everybody's got to go, hold on. We're not saying that we're not funding anything. We're saying that maybe in that dead period within the social impact space, let's not a national dialogue, because I want your thoughts on that. Lesley's rolling her eyes. But how do we get the horse back into the barn? Has it not bolted?
If it's bolted, then we might as well pack up and go. I don't know where we're going to go to, but we might as well just, give up.
The programs are there now, right? People are throwing money at it, and you are with the amount of work experience and stuff that you do. You're saying it's not working. and yet at the same time you recognize that there are pockets of excellence. I just want to know, how do we get everybody to, and I've asked this question so many times, and people, they always give me the PC answer. How do we collaborate more? How do we talk to each other? How do we get the power players around the table in a meaningful way that takes us 3 steps back?
So, Sam, what's really exciting about Khulisa is that what we've done in the past year, we've brought AI into our interventions.
I remember, yeah.
And every single one of our officers have now been trained, and we've been granted permission to use it's called the systemic intuitive theory, where we only consult with people with lived experiences. So we have then run dialogues that are designed in a way that are psychologically designed according to this SIT theory, that enlist answers and solutions from people with lived experiences to delve into what is existing in communities and what assets exist in the communities and what resources exist in communities. And we then, through dialogues that are analyzed through AI, using their voices, their facial expressions, but most importantly, analyzing their solutions, we then, in specific ecosystems, looking at all demographics, so old people, what their lived experiences are about abuse, looking at patriarchal belief systems and GBV, looking at the entire demographic in that community.
That sounds clever.
You have these dialogues, and then through AI get their solutions analyzed in that ecosystem, and then look at what the communities told us about their own solutions using their own lived experiences and their knowledge, and then analyze these into projects that we are now starting to implement in the community that are driven from the bottom up or the inverted pyramid down.
Yeah.
And then we start looking at who in that community
That's
can
very
partner with
clever,
us.
Lesley.
Well, it's not clever. I mean, we're just tapping. I mean, AI. I mean, you know.
But I, because you know when you said we are only talking to people from their lived experience, and I'm going, okay, automatically I see a problem, and then as I'm working through it, I go, lived experience means that there are also NGOs in the communities that have lived experience. There are the beneficiaries that have lived experience. There are the victims of some of these that have lived
Correct.
experience. So they'll tell you, I went to the police station and this is what happened to me. Or there was an organization that came in, promised this, but they only delivered this. I think it's very innovative. It's not from the old song and dance.
But the most interesting thing is, Sam, and we're running projects like this in a number of mining
That's very
communities. And the mines, because they've got exit strategies, they have to leave companies as sustainable as what they can, even though it's going to be, you know, it's certainly a decade plus worth of work. But when we go to these community members and we use this methodology to get the community members to start telling us,
right?
yes, SIT model, and when we get them together, they've never actually sat together and realized they're all suffering from the same problems. They've never sat together and said, okay, there's a possible vision for us. Let's look at what resources we've got. In this community, I've got this guy could do this. And when it's over a period of time, you don't come up with this, you know, with the solutions, with its different levels. But I sit down, and for example, in Limpopo, in the village of Bloberg, which is this deep rural village, the knowledge that these community members have that has never been tapped into. I sit at their feet, and I'm like a sponge.
And why hasn't it? Because Les, you know this for a fact. Whenever you speak to a corporate will tell you, well, this is what they'll tell us now. They'll say, we do not implement any programs in a community if we haven't collaborated with the community champions, the leadership, whoever has any social capital in that community. Those are the people that we speak to before we even start implementing. What you're saying to me is that if you're not following this model, you are getting the same talking heads that will tell you the same stuff, and speaking to community members through their lived experience gives you a much better sense of kind of what's working, what isn't working. And then through that, you're then meeting the people that have real value. Sometimes a community leader is just a community leader for the sake of being a community leader, but doesn't have any gravitas in the real sense in that community.
Sam, absolutely. So we're developing this model now, but when you say that investors will go to municipality, whatever, do you know, we're probably working in about 240 communities around the country right now. And when, as part of this whole developmental process, once the communities come up with their solutions and we found out that we can rehabilitate the clinic, we can use a clinic for a trauma debriefing center, because these are the solutions and what the community said. We need a place to gather.
There's dead space there.
Redundant, defunct community halls, defunct sports fields, defunct playgrounds. How are they all broken? I don't know.
Yeah.
And out of 50,000 children that we interviewed around the country over the past 5 years, they've asked for playgrounds, they've asked for places to go and talk. They've asked for places where they can have healthy dialogues. But yet in these communities, everything's been, vandalized, bastardized. And you say, why? What's gone wrong with all this money that's been invested? But separate to that, in the municipalities where we work, the IDPs that have been developed, they say they've consulted the communities, but when we look at what the communities asked and we compare it with the IDPs that are not implemented, there's no evidence of impact. There's no evidence that any of the money has gone towards what they said they're going to do because of the corruption. And we know of the municipal entities around the country. I think the percentages of who are under, who have unqualified, qualified audits at the moment. When
it's shocking, actually.
And these are the people, these are the entities that govern, and also the tribal authorities, the councils, etc. These are the so-called custodians of the community well-being. We did a test recently, and it was done in really good faith on all I call it the rules that bind us, the PMFA, the certain parts of the Constitution. We did a test with some of the tribal authorities and the municipal leaders on the basic fundamental laws that they are supposed to be aware of that inform how they perform. Do you know that 98% of them failed? They did not know what governance structures they are obliged to. So how on earth can you have functioning municipalities when the money gets taken, the IDPs are frivolous, and nothing's been implemented? So the community members sit back helpless. There's a sense of, I'm not going to vote. They sit back and say, well, this is my status quo, and let's just go deeper and deeper into this unemployment and accepting the lack of services, and that's just it. And unfortunately, that is the mentality of our people now. There's a sense of entitlement because people aren't encouraged to assert themselves, to go and negotiate in a non-confrontational way because they haven't had their rights exercised.
Yeah, that's very, very important. So the SIT model is now being pioneered or pushed by Khulisa. You are now, as you've mentioned, in the last 5 years, 50,000 young people talking to you. But I think we still have a challenge that even though we highlight that a lot of these custodians are not afraid with just the basic structure of governance and understanding how to implement some of these rules that they should have known as part of the orientation. How do you go into these environments now with this new knowledge, a better way of doing things, but it's still the old guard? How do you get past that?
By showing them what the community wants and by having data, evidence, solutions. And because of the elections coming up now, and because
there seems to be a will to want to change
absolutely
things.
And I think although we've got so many challenges about our new government of national unity and all there is definitely in some areas a shift in accountability, albeit small, and I'm not quite sure to what extent the support is being given. But in certain communities, because Khulisa's been around in some of them, like Alex, 25 years. We had our 25th anniversary in Rustenburg last week. Wow. So we've been around for a long time, and the mayors know us, the municipalities know us. But coming with this data now, and because it's AI driven,
takes the conversation to another level.
It takes it to another level, but also says, hey, this is really what's needed. Let's look at what your IDP is, and let's together look at how we can realign and form partnerships with the community where we can make you look good, where we can work together. We're not criticizing you. We're coming with a collaborative approach. Let's look at what data we've got, and let's see how together we can start uplifting the services around mental health. Let's see how we can rehabilitate the clinics. Let's look how we can reinvent the sports field. And this is where it goes beyond only the municipalities and government. This is now we can really go to the corporates and say, there's really a need for this playground to be fixed. The SAPs have agreed to patrol. We've got, the Department of Sports and Recreation has agreed to provide sporting. So suddenly there's a role for everybody to play because we show what's needed and because there's evidence of how there's a role for everybody to form part of this cohesive ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think we need to also foster trust-based partnerships. Many partnerships are formed out of a need, but there's very little trust between the organizations. And we need to really foster, what does trust look like, where you win, I win, we all win. The spotlight is shined equally on the participating partners, because I feel that a lot of these partnerships are quite fragile. And the moment there's one little bump in the road and everybody runs into their own directions, and yet the common issue is that this community needs us to work together in order to be able. Do you know how many times you have, for example, I'll go, and it's not a blight against them, I think they do amazing work, the Clover Mama project, right? And I've been fortunate enough now to go and sit down with the mamas. Some of them, meet them and see the work that they do, and one will create a food garden, and then it's not just a food garden, but it's also an aftercare center, and it's a bakery, and it's 15 million little things wrapped into it. And then you go and you ask, for example, the Clover Mama, do you know that these other 5 organizations are not even a kilometer away from you, and there's overlapping work like food gardens? They don't know about each other. And if they're in the same circle, they're doing the same work, but they're not aware that yes, I've got a food garden here, but less than 2 kilometers away is a food garden also sponsored by another a business. And it sometimes frustrates me that a community could benefit if nations work together, but they don't do it. And to your point, what I love with SIT is that it's the community that's now coming in and saying, through our lived experience, through what we've experienced, this is what's working, this is what's not working. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, Sam, having said that, you say why the fragility of partnerships or whatever, in this model that we're developing now is when we agree on, when we put a project together that's based on the community's needs, getting the municipality involved, getting local stakeholders, getting the clinic providing facilities, and all different partners coming together to avail what's available, and then also getting in local investors. We are now able to develop, in terms of this project, we have KPIs, and it gets put on an automated dashboard. So the KPIs of the municipality will be that they've agreed to install lights on a certain road by so-and-so time to prevent the girls from being raped at night, and for the kids to walk safely or play soccer at night. So when we've come up with this ecosystem of who's addressing what needs in that particular ecosystem based on the needs of the community and the asset mapping and the partnerships, that all gets put onto a dashboard. So at any given time, at every month, there's reporting.
You're able to track it.
So we're able to say the municipality didn't fix the board, and all of us together can see that they haven't done it, and then we say why.
That's a bit of an embarrassment as well, right?
It's not the word social compact top down, and it's all the stuff, and there's also pockets of excellence. But our community integration model now, because we've got together and we've agreed collaboratively on what we're going to do, and we've agreed on the KPIs.
There's accountability,
and there's accountability, and that I think is where the difference is going to make. Where we've agreed now, this is our pact, this is our agreement. We've entered into the social cohesion agreement, and if you do not deliver when we've agreed that you will, because these are the needs, then we can start saying why. And I think that this red light, these flags being shown up at an early stage, I think in time we can start really inculcating the sense of accountability, reliability, and trust.
Because I think I do wanna point this out for people that they're not familiar, and I'm not for many reasons. Some of us live in bubbles, and we'd never move outside of our bubble. We'll never walk through Alex ever. You'll never meet any of those families that live in the shacks right on the embankment. You'll never get to hear their stories. If you're lucky, you might read it or whatever. And you work in some of the poorest communities in the country. But the thing that people don't realize, that you've got so many good people hard-working, dedicated men and women that live in those communities, that are obsessed about how to fix it. They might not know sometimes how to go about it. They might be frustrated by the system. They might need a Lesley to come and unlock some relationship and partnerships. But through even your network, I have met extraordinary South Africans, extraordinary people that are fixing right now, whether you're sitting in a restaurant or not. There's somebody in Alex right now busy cleaning up the embankment, looking at how to fix those areas. And I think you've come across exceptional people too.
Oh, everywhere. Just people who they just want to make a difference, and they're sitting there disempowered because they don't know how.
Yeah.
So we've got to link the passion to the purpose, and you can only do that if you've got a structure or a project plan where everybody can say, okay, I'm prepared to look after 10 kids in my square mile, my square block, and the kids have normally been left with vendors or left alone during the day. This Gogo, and we'll find money to pay her 1,000 rand a month, and we'll train her on how to do literacy, and then we'll find somebody else who go around and help with the gardening, and then somebody doing the patrolling. So there's so much potential looking at the assets, our human beings, the beautiful, beautiful South Africans we have everywhere, who have just never been given the chance to contribute towards this rainbow that we've been trying to build.
Yeah. As we wrap up, I just wanted to get my last two questions. Your thoughts on the national dialogue. Khulisa's had many dialogues. I know we had a national dialogue, but you host them on a regular basis. That's part of what you do. You facilitate people talking to each other. Your thoughts on the national dialogue?
Sam, there's been so much media space spent on these dialogues. We could have listened to people sharing their solutions instead of just talk about the dialogue and people pulling out and the politics. Really, it's not my favorite subject. Definitely not.
Okay. And then, again, fair enough. There has been a lot of talk about it, and we're still trying to wrap our head around what the potential outcomes will be, all of that kind of stuff. What's next for Khulisa? Because I know I love this idea. I mean, I can see you get excited about the AI stuff and the new technology and unlocking and using data differently. What's next for you?
You coming and recording a SIT dialogue circle with us in the community.
Deal.
When real life stories are shared, we come together, we show the solutions, and we'll make a documentary, and we'll take one ecosystem, then we take it and we roll it over and throw it over to all these amazing Johannesburgers who are the most generous people, and let's come up with a Johannesburg solution to some of our most fragmented communities.
I love it. How can people get hold of you and just follow the work? I would encourage everybody, just go and check out Khulisa Social Solutions, and just go and read how they think about, watch the videos, listen to the interviews. Go and I think you're going to see that there are people in South Africa that have actual solutions on how to fix things, but we just need to amplify their voices a lot more so that the right people can hear it. And
Sam, we can't do this on our own.
Yeah.
So thank you. So just basically, if everybody's interested, info@khulisa, KHULISA.org.za, and we'll come back to you very, very quickly.
Yeah, you guys are very responsive.
Thank you.
Love it. Lesley Ann van Selm, always a pleasure talking to you. You know, I'm one of your favorites, right? I follow you. I engage with you guys. I love the work that you do, and I think you guys have figured out how to solve a lot of the problems. Go and check these guys out. They're absolutely phenomenal. Go and check out Lesley. She does a lot of other things. We don't have enough time. We would have to run a show for at least 3 weeks just to talk about half the stuff that she does. Okay, we're a couple of minutes away from the top of the hour news. When we come back, we'll be back with the Impact Hour, where we speak to entrepreneurs about their journey.